Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happiness Unchained. Law of Attraction. For those of you who have read the book The Secret or seen the movie, I think it's phenomenal. Um, one of my favorite books, one of my favorite concepts, but I think very misunderstood. And I think a lot of time, if you've heard anything about law of attraction or manifestation, that it seems very simple, that it's like, just think about in your mind what you want to do and you already have it. And then you're like, okay, well, I want this Lexus. And you think about it and you did, right? You had the emotion, what it feels like to drive this car. Maybe you even went and test drove it. I've done that a million times. And then a couple weeks later, you're like, where's my Lexus? Don't see it. And then you get frustrated and you're like, this doesn't work. And so you sort of write it off. At least that was my story. So law of attraction has been something that I have dabbled in, but not actually completely dove all the way in to understand it, because I think a lot of times what we have to understand is that there's only so much in a video or a book that they can tell you, and that part of it is an experience. So to me, the law of attraction has so many underlying things in it, but the big part that I can tell you is that we talked about this in an earlier episode, is having a vision. Like, you have to have a vision and know what it is that you want, and really be able to like see it in your mind's eye. Like, I don't know if you remember when you were a kid and you could imagine different things and it was so real, so vivid. And then we sort of lose that when we go to adulthood for many different reasons. But it's really, really being able to see it like clear as day, as if you have it. And really, more than just seeing it, is really having that emotion behind it, like you have it. And sometimes that can be tricky depending on what it is, but it's something that you truly, when you think about it, your face lights up. It's like you have that Lexus outside, that you have the keys in your hand. You can go outside and jump in it and drive wherever you want to, right? It's whatever you're going to feel like when you have that. And really just embodying that emotion, because one of the big things is your vibration. If you don't know much about like your vibrational state, that's a whole series in itself. But as we know, energy cannot be created or destroyed. We are energy. Everything is made of energy, and energy sort of resonates in a vibration. Don't come for me, scientist, if I'm saying this completely wrong, but you know what I mean. Or if you don't, just look it up. But everything has a vibration, and really, when we are in a state of those negative emotions, right? Like anger, depression, anxiety, things of those nature, of that nature, that's a low vibrational state. And I like to equate it like this. This is how I understand it. So if we are, when I was in a state where I was just super depressed and wanted things to change for my life, but I was super negative all the time, was wondering why people could be happy all the time, like literally hating on them because their life is better than mine, or whatever was going through my head, right? But I wanted these things, and I'm literally going to say Lexus as an example, just because that's what I started with, but I wanted this thing. And to be able to get this thing, it cost money, right? And to be able to get that amount of money, that is at a different vibrational state. And I like to think of it like this: if you are at a low vibrational state, but you want something at a higher vibrational state, you have to raise your vibration to that thing. Because it's really like having a really strong, two strong magnets. If they're close together, they'll attract, right? But if you drive across town and have one magnet here and have one magnet over there, they're not going to attract. And that's really what it is. As far as raising your vibration, like you need to make sure that you are raising your vibration to the thing that you want. So if you're like constantly thinking about it and you want it and you see it, and like you sort of know the emotion, but you are embodying it, your vibrational state isn't changing, because if you're getting frustrated because you don't have it yet, or pissed off, or you're letting things get to you in your life and like keeping you in that state, that is why you don't see it. And it took me a long time to really learn that, and understand that that's what I had to do, was sort of raise my vibrational state. Now, to do that, it's it sounds very simple, right? But obviously it's not easy. Everything that we're really chasing isn't really easy. It's a simple process though, but it's really starting to work on yourself and let go of the things that don't serve you, let go of those things that are at a low vibrational state. And that's where the work comes in, because it's like we can think about something all day, but we really need to make sure that we're putting in work too. We can't just think about it and then like feel an emotion one day and things are going to pop up. There's work that we need to do. And sometimes we think, oh, well, I've got to like make more money at my job and, save and, do all of these other random things, while like that's helpful. But with the law of attraction, I'm learning it's like you don't necessarily know how that thing's going to come into your life. The work you are responsible for is raising your vibration. So if you know that going to your job, which is my story for you guys who don't know it, and what I help people through, is if you were just really unhappy with where you are in your job, that's the work you need to do. You need to figure out why it is that you're unhappy and what it is that you need to do to be able to get out of there, so that you don't have to deal with that stress and all of the low vibrational things that came with it. Because for me in my job, like I work very hard. Um, I got to do what I got to do sometimes, but I'm pretty much going to do what I need to do at 100%. But if it's in a situation to where I just don't like it, that's when like my mental health starts to go down, right? So it was really me just having to figure out, what do you want to do? And that's part of your vision. And also just doing things that make you happy in the process. Because sometimes, like I said, we're going to do things we have to do. Like right now, my business isn't where I want it to be. So I do little odds and ends on the side. Do I want to do those things? Nope. But I do it with a positive attitude, because I'm very grateful to have those things to be able to take care of the other financial things, so that I can focus on my business and that's out of the way without it being on my mind too. So, yes, sometimes we're going to have to do things we don't want to do, but when we're in a state to where things are literally sucking the life out of us, we have to get rid of those things so that we can get back to a place of at least contentment and gratitude. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you hear that all the time. And it's not really just gratitude. Like, I was listening to a podcast recently. I don't remember which one, but it really talked about um, gratitude as a whole, like being grateful for the things that you have and being glad about it, versus being grateful for things that you don't have. And let me break that down, because I probably didn't say that in the most intelligent way, but it's really like if someone lost their house, right? Oh man, I'm so grateful that didn't happen to me. I mean, gratitude, but it doesn't have the right air behind it. It should be more like, I'm so very grateful that I have a roof over my head, that I have a job to be able to pay for those things, that I'm able to help others that are in need and things of that nature. Because when you're speaking that way, like even me just saying that, that sort of gave me some happiness on the inside, right? Versus just being like, ooh, I'm glad I don't have to deal with what you're doing. Because that's basically what you're saying in that first example. Or like I'm glad that didn't happen to me. Thankful. Hashtag grateful, right? Um, but that's what it is. I think a big part of it is figuring out what you actually want, which we talked about, and figuring out what you need to do to get away from the thing that's pulling your vibrational state down. Sometimes it's not your job, sometimes it's people. And that's a whole topic. Because sometimes those people are friends that we've had around for a long time, but we feel bad or feel obligated. That's that people pleasing thing coming in. I've been there, so not judging, but that's just part of it, right? And sometimes all it takes is having a conversation. But I think a lot of times we're very afraid of how the conversation is going to come out, right? It's really those boundaries just to say, like, look, this is what's happening, this is how it's affecting me. And whether they want to call you selfish or not, sometimes we have to be. We have to take care of ourselves first. It's like the airplane example, and I always use this, but everyone understands it, right? They always tell you, put your mask on before you put your neighbor's mask on, because if you're passed out in your seat, you ain't gonna be able to help nobody, right? So we can't pour from an empty cup. We have to make sure we take care of ourselves. And if these people in your life are like dragging you down and you're having an open, honest, vulnerable conversation with them and they're like pushing back and being hateful and all of these things, those are not your people. We do outgrow people. Some people are meant to be in our lives for a season, for a reason, not for a lifetime. And I think a lot of times we get in unhappy situations because we push through these things and hang on to people and situations when they're not meant to be there anymore. And I am like the biggest. I'm so guilty of that. Like 110,000%. That I have to learn to let go, especially of those people who are literally there for a season. And sometimes it's a short season. And sometimes you have people in your life for years and you just have to let them go. And I'm not saying it needs to be hateful or like this big scene, but some people are just phased out of my life. If you've ever caught, this is a good example, like if you've ever caught yourself um reaching out to someone, because this is something that I do, because I think about people, right? And when people cross your mind, reach out to them. And you find yourself constantly reaching out, they're not answering, you constantly reaching out and you're trying to make sure they're okay, and then they just sort of answer when they can, and it's not really much anyway, and then you try to make it a conversation, then you end up getting your feelings hurt. That's one of the things that we probably need to let go of. And it's those types of things that we need to do to be able to put ourselves in a better state. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Like, yeah, like sometimes it's going to feel like grief, especially in relationships. Like for me, breakups are like wild. Like I am down because I get so attached to people, but that's a whole different issue anyway. But sometimes, like, yeah, it's going to feel like grief and you're going to have to get through that. But you're going to be better for it because once you get past that, the way you're going to feel is so freeing. You're so light, and you'll notice that you'll be happier. That goes for, romantic relationships, friendships, relationships with your family, your jobs, just anything that doesn't serve you. That is what you need to evaluate and figure out how you need to move past that in your life. So I know that wasn't like a complete talk on the law of attraction, but I think it's important to understand that law of attraction is heavily dependent upon your vibration. On top of you visualizing it and feeling it, it's the work you need to do to get your vibration to that thing, because once you get to that state of vibration that you need to be, it seems like things are just going to start falling in your lap. And that has started to happen to me recently, where things are just like happening and I'm like, ooh, where'd that come from? Oh my gosh, girl, like where did that come from? And it's very exciting when it starts to happen, and it makes you just want more of it, and it's just more work that you have to do. You constantly have to keep climbing that ladder, if you will, of raising your vibration so that those things that you want and desire will just come to you. But they don't just fall in our lap because we think about it laying in our bed eating chips. There is work we need to do, um, on multiple levels. And then we also just need to be open to the fact that those things can come to us in ways that we never imagined. So this is good. This is quick. I don't know why I picked 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes for these podcasts, but I'm just looking. So next week, I'm going to sort of talk to you about something that I'm doing. That if you already follow me, that you know that I'm doing already about the time this is released. But I really want to talk to you about this because this is something that you may want to do yourself, and it will just sort of light a fire under your butt and maybe help you to realize some things. So tune in next week for part of my personal journey. And yeah, we'll see you then. Have a good one.